Good morning. It's a very bright day at the circuit Marco Simoncelli in Misano on the Adriatic coast. It's been a hugely hot few days. Hopefully today won't be quite as scalding. And for me, Bruce Jones, alongside John Watson in the commentary box, it's hot wherever you go, John.
Morning, Bruce. Well, it's another day in paradise, as you would say. It is a screamer already at 9 o'clock, 27 ambient, and track temperatures only 25.5, but that's going to climb. It'll probably get into the middle 30s at some point. And again, look at it. I mean, magnificent views all around this Misano 16-corner racetrack. One of those racetracks where, and there you can see, look at the stands already, Valentino Rossi fans. They've been here since, I think, dawn was breaking to get a glimpse, or even an autograph, or even a handshake, or whatever from the great man, because the fans here love him. And of course, he lives in this area, not specifically here at Misano, but he is a local, as one might say, in this region of Italy.
Certainly is, and he has to walk the line between all the fans in the paddock. They're standing there neatly, politely, but they stand out in their bright, bright yellow liveries with 46 festooned all over them. Great sight here. The last couple of years, the pit lane has been extended towards pit in. Very grand new building at that end. So Misano absolutely chock-a-block this weekend. Interesting, we're seeing the 111 McLaren, the Norbert Siedler standing in this weekend in place of Christian Klein alongside Patrick Krupinski, but unfortunately they will have a 3-place grid penalty for this race for contact in the first race, as John will be the Sky Tempesta Racing Mercedes, which we saw having contact with two other cars, or causing two other cars to clash, and both those cars out of the event. The 21 AF Corsa Ferrari, shared by Cedric Sparazzuoli and Ugo Delacourt, not taking part because of damage, and likewise the car that was sitting and got hit by the Ferrari, the Santalok Junior number 25 Audi. Aurelion Panis and Patrick Niederhauser, sure, if they were competing to get points, but alas, they are not in the meeting anymore. No, and
I mean, both cars unfortunately out. But maybe one would say that this 25 Santalok Junior Audi team, that's a car that has been very competitive. Nevertheless, any loss of a car is a loss. We had 27 cars at the beginning of this weekend. We're down to 25. Hopefully, we will finish the race on Sunday afternoon with 25 runners.
Well, let's have fingers crossed for that. So Dean McDonald, going great guns in the Pro-Am class, has decided, well, Garage 59 have decided to get their McLarens to pit exit to be first out onto the track. So there'll be a little bit more space with 25 rather than 27 runners. The track conditions now at 9, coming up to 9 in the morning, will be as cool, or let's say less hot than they've been at any point in the meeting. Fred Vervisch will be doing the qualifying in the car, the 46 Audi he shares with Valentino Rossi, and let's see where he can place that car. Had a bit of a problem in the race yesterday, needed an extra pit stop, and that shunted it down the order. But however you look at it, this is a warm race meeting. Here's the other car, the Sky Tempesta Racing Mercedes, going down into turn 8 on the opening lap. Eddie Cheever got it slightly wrong down the inside and triggered all the incidents behind. But now it's Chris Froggatt, his teammate, who'll be kicking off to do the qualifying in this 20-minute session.
Yeah, so going back to the 46 Audi, Valentino Rossi got that car onto the 8th row of the grid. Fred Vervisch will be trying to get us further up, because the further up you are, it's much, much easier. Like most racetracks we see in the world, overtaking, where you've got so equally matched cars in terms of their balance and performance, it's hard to find a way through, and you can take your risks and opportunities on the opening lap. That's often the best chance you'll get. Then you have to wait, arguably, until the pit stops become available. But it's just so competitive. I mean, straight line performance more or less equal, maybe with the McLarens nudging ahead by a kilometre or 2 per hour, but that is the maximum.
Well, drivers already looking pretty warm in their cockpits, even though their cars are in the shade in the pit lane. It's very much been an Audi circuit, always has, since the series started visiting here. And in fact, 6 of the last 7 races here have been won by the Belgian duo Charles Weerts and Dries van Toor. The 6th was yesterday. Can they make it 7 from 8? An astonishing record here.
Well, they can make it certainly if they get onto the front row of the grid. Ideally, they'd like to have another pole position. But this car here, the 89 Acudos ASP Mercedes-Benz, now Raffaele Marcello behind the wheel, that is going to be the principal threat to another win here this afternoon for the WRT Audi number 32.
Yeah, it came home 5.5 seconds down yesterday, but really Raffaele was having to work really hard not to catch, but just to stay level, but behind Dries van Toor in the closing stint. One thing that really makes me very happy indeed is that all around the world people are watching this session. It's great to hear from someone over in Indonesia who's sitting watching on YouTube, watching Q2 here, and it's Omaris Bumi Raidi, so well done for him. But it just shows the global reach of Fanatec GT, John.
Yes, of course, in that part of the world it's probably late afternoon, early evening. So a great opportunity to sit down and watch once again this practice session, qualifying session, 20 minutes.
20 minutes and 1 point for pole position. Yesterday that was taken by Charles Wirtz, and that meant he started the race 1.5 points rather than half a point clear of Boguslawski and Marciello. But by the end of the race with victory, that gap has extended to 6 points between them. Bear in mind, this is the penultimate round of the sprint series, only the final round in Spain to come. So every single point counts now. It is a two-horse race at the top of the championship between Vantor and Wirtz and Boguslawski and Marciello.
Yes, Alicia Tapau into the pit lane after one lap out. Now, don't know why that would be. In fact, a number of cars following in. I mean, in my day, I used to go out and do an out lap and exploratory lap to come back in, let the team then have a quick look over the car, then set about going whether it was qualifying or practicing. Dean McDonald continuing to impress in the Garage 59 McLaren. So he comes out to go on to his flying lap out through turn 3 up to the sort of almost as a one corner turn 4-5. You make an entry and you just run wide, then it drops down to take turn 5. Backed out of it because he's got traffic ahead, so he doesn't want to overly use his tyres. And that's one of the two Dynamic Motorsport Porsches directly ahead.
So pole position time yesterday set by Charles Wirtz, really right at the end. He had to back out of one lap that was looking very good. Was there going to be enough time? Yes, there was just enough. 1 minute 31.268 seconds. So bear in mind, that was only a whisker faster than Vincent Abril managed in the number 112 JP Motorsport McLaren. That team, JP Motorsport, with a lot of assistance from Zach Speed, I notice. They're transported down in the paddock, but a Polish team really growing as it goes. But let's see what the level will be. This should be the coolest conditions they've run in ever since they arrived at Misano. It was super hot on Friday when they were testing, and the two Garage 59 cars actually swapping position there. So Dean McDonald just hanging back a little bit.
Yes, I think he did that. He's completed an out lap, he's completed a flying lap, now he's going on to begin a second flying lap. He wants to be careful, as we say again, the Dynamic Motorsport Porsche and the 30 Audi. That was a good run for that car. Thomas Neubauer and Benjamin Goethe held off the charging Mercedes to eventually get that third place, but principally to get a podium, albeit that they run in a different class. So that Audi, the WRT, is a Silver Cup car rather than a full Pro car. Christopher Mies again, purple, looking to try and get his opportunity in the 33 WRT along with Jean-Baptiste Semenauer to get that car as far up the field. This is where the pro driver part of this Silver Cup really comes to sort of, in fact it's a full pro car, the one that beg your pardon, Christopher Mies. So he will, I suspect, go quickest overall.
Well, Jim Pla goes tops, but 132.834. We should be down in the 1 minute 31s, but we tend to find that later in this 20-minute qualifying session. And suddenly Christopher Mies does go to the top by 0.6 of a second from Jim Pla. Still early days, still waiting to see what Dries Van Tor and Raffaele Marciello, the championship challengers, can do. They have not put a time yet on the board. They're in their build-up phase. Now Albert Costa back in the championship this weekend with the Imperial team from Italy. In Lamborghini, he's sharing with Alberto Di Folco. Let's see what he can do going into the mix. He's in, well, he's 7th, he's bottom of all the top runners, but his next lap, he's faster than anybody else.
Well, he's got purple in sector 1, down by 0.3 of a second in the middle sector. So that's undone all the good yards in that initial. So down at the far end of the racetrack through turns into turn 14, out of 13 into 14. And then the short run up to the left-hander at 15, have to back out of it. You just hear that little feather on the throttle. And then into the final turn, turn 16, get the nose in, be careful on the exit. Track limit abusers will see it deleted time, but that was a very good exit for the Lamborghini. So Albert Costa comes across, was 12th, now up to 9th.
Christopher Mies top, Christopher Haas second, Mattia Drudi third, and Vavish fourth. And Lucas Leggere slots into second place. But what do the top 5 runners have beneath them? An Audi. It really has always been an Audi circuit. But what we want to see is what Raffaele Marciello can do, and likewise waiting for Dries Van Tor to put a sensible time on the board. These are the two drivers you'd expect to have at the front of the grid. But people like Mattia Drudi really need watching. He's in the number 12 Tracer by Car Collection Audi, the sister car to the one we're looking at now. Number 11, which has got Christopher Haas on board, who finished in 4th place yesterday, so they're real challengers.
Yeah, we're looking at the purple for Dries Van Tor. Best lap yesterday was at just over 1 minute 31 seconds. We're still around about a second away from that, in more or less similar conditions. So Christopher Haase now goes quickest, and that time sees him into the 1 minute 31 to 31.8, and there will be more to come. 1:11 Haase, the 1:11 McLaren. So whereabouts are they currently? Well, Norbert Siedler has yet to record a time, but he's got a purple in sector 1. So this could be a promising lap from the JP Motorsports McLaren, resplendent in its black and gold. As they come into the last corner, turn 16, watch the exit, gets it neat and tidy, runs out of it, keeps good drive. So this could challenge right now Christopher Haase's fastest time. Doesn't this time, but goes second.
Well, very good that none of the McLarens have set a time. They're all sitting at the bottom of the timing screen. 25 cars out there, but Christopher Haase fastest now from Norbert Siedler. They're into the 131s, 131.8, 131.8, and 131.9 for Albert Costa. So at the moment we've got Audi, McLaren, Lamborghini, then a slew of Audis all the way down to 9th place. Matthias Drudy, he will be going faster. Okay, where is Marcello? He's in the top 19 because he's 19th. That is not where he expects to be. He's 1.5 seconds off the pace. And he's going to really have to push hard or come in and get fresh rubber.
Dries van Thorn, only 5th at the minute, wants to see that car in first. He managed it in a very good final sector. So looking inside the WRT pit, the team principals and Charles Weerts himself standing there, lips slightly puckered, wondering, well, where's my man? Well, my man has actually managed to get us onto a provisional pole, but still down in time because Christopher Haase has just eclipsed Dries van Thorn by, what, 92 hundredths of a second.
Yeah, if anyone else can do it by another thousandths of a second, it put him back onto the second row. Good to see that Norbert Siedler is so quick in the McLaren from JP Motorsport. It's the number 111 one, though. That will take a 3-place grid penalty. So 3rd place would, if he stays there, he'll end up starting 6th on the grid, which will propel more Audis to the top. Lucas
Legere currently in 12th place. In the 26 Audi, looks like he's going to make an improvement. So it did seem that way. Still, he's got purple 1st sector, green 2nd sector. Wait and see what he does when he comes up there, coming across to see where Legere goes from 11th up to 6th.
Well, good run from the Swiss driver, just joined the championship for 2022 this weekend. Raffaele Marcello has made a pit stop. He's emerged back onto the track, so maybe he's splitting this 20-minute qualifying session into 2 parts, and the sweet part will be the last part. And don't forget, yesterday when Charles Weerts took pole, he left it right to the end of the session before he struck and did what he was required to do to keep that championship challenge, that push coming through. And Dries van Thorn, is there going to be an improvement into provisional pole? No, there isn't. He stays in 2nd place. It's very close, 25 thousandths now, so he's shaved a few thousandths, but not enough.
Yeah, it was a personal best lap, but not just quite enough to dethrone Christopher Haase in the number 11. That's Treasure by Car Collection idea. If you go back to Fred Vervies in the 46, the car, of course, infamously, or famously, not infamously, driven by the great, how can you even get the name out without saying the great Valentino Rossi?
No, it's the attachment. It goes in front of Valentino. The great is now absolutely acknowledged. So let's see what Vervies can do. Clearly going to improve, and he goes up to 7th place. So Raffaele Marcello has finally struck. 19th is no good anymore. He's up to 3rd place now. He's immediately, if it stays as it is, right behind Dries van Thorn by just a 1/10 of a second. So he's done the session differently, but he's coming on.
Just caught a glimpse again of the 46 Audi. Vervies is in 7th place. This is all provisional, of course. We've got another 10 minutes of the session remaining as we look at Christopher Mies, purple, green for the Audi driver.
And it must be said, John, with Norbert Siedler up in 4th place overall, that will become 7th, but by far the highest Pro-Am combination in qualifying for the 2nd race here at Misano. So his teammate Patrick Krupinski will be very, very pleased indeed. That we know here almost more than other circuits we race on, a really good grid position gives you a massive help coming into the race. Target time 1 minute 35.591 seconds. Christopher Haase still keeping that. Christopher Mies has just closed up to 4th place.
Yeah, again, it's really looking like an Audi lockout. The only interloper is the number 89 Mercedes of Raffaele Marcello, and he's still out on track. So it's Audi, Mercedes, Audi, then the first of the McLarens, then a pair of Audis, then a McLaren, and then Fred Vervies in 9th in an Audi, followed by Alberto Costa in the first of the Lamborghinis, rounding out the top 10.
If you're out on the track at the moment, you've got half the number of cars that started the session because the other half are back in the pit lane including Raffaele Marcello, who's good for third place at the moment, but that target time of 1 minute 31.59, I'm sure he's going to be tattered, and Dennis Lind could be the man to do it.
Dennis the Menace Lind is purple sector 1, green sector 2. Can he get it off the final turn clean, neat, good drive? He's done that now. It's down to the timing and scoring. Dennis Lind showing, where did that come from? 15th.
Only good for 15th, but that is his first flying lap. The other driver who hasn't set a flying lap as yet is the second of the Dynamic Motorsport Porsches. That's car number 56, which is under investigation for entering the pit garage. So it could be a big potential problem for them. Rules transgressions being watched. But look how the Audis line the pit lane. Fred Vervisch at the moment sitting in, look down the screen, not as high as he would have wanted, but certainly in the top 10, though in 9th place overall. Still a work in progress. Almost every car in the pit lane. At the moment, I can only count 6 cars out on the track, including Dries Van Tor. And having a problem getting that right rear wheel off the 111 McLaren.
Yes.
So this is
they've got the shipyard screwdriver then to try and prise it off. But just of note here, in that top 10, we've got 5 cars all in at 1 minute 31.9. And that goes from 6th place all the way down to 10th place. So it's mighty, mighty competitive. Now there's a... is that the wheel? I can't forget the spare wheel tire out of the way. I think it's the wheel nut. They can't... They have to torque these central locking nuts up to extremely high numbers, and so the 32's in is going to go back into the garage just for a little. I don't know what they're. No, they're just rotating the car around to get it up an echelon, because the pit lane here, we have to get the cars in this qualifying context. This is how they must line up. They can't line up line astern as they would inevitably do once the race begins.
Anybody out on the track has literally got the track to themselves. One of the Garage 59 McLarens looking fabulous and resplendent out on the circuit is Ethan Simeone, and he's just set his best time last time around. But if he wants his next one, the Canadian driver, well, he's top runner in the Silver Cup for now. Let's see how that rolls out for them, but he may suddenly be confronted by a whole host of cars just exiting the pit lane in front of his... No, he's decided to join them in the pit lane. So what have we got left? 6 3/4 minutes. And the track is open and available for all.
Yes, and everybody will be putting on, one would assume, the best of the rest, or if they have it, a brand new set of Pirelli rubber, and there is a set going on too.
Interesting, when that tyre came off Dries Van Tor's Audi, you could see he'd run near the side of the circuit. Already someone scattered some gravel there. The rubber was peppered with those stones, which clearly doesn't help the handling at all. Doesn't matter, that set is off, but it's about keeping it between... A lot of drivers throughout this meeting have been pinged for exceeding track limits. I really would be very surprised indeed if at least one car wasn't pinged in this session. The drivers try their hardest to stay within the circuit confines, but always in modern racing, it is a bit of a curse. Drivers try and push as hard as they can to the edge of the circuit, go a little bit beyond, and they are noticed.
Yes, and particularly here in Misano, because it is a dual-purpose racetrack. It's used for... It used to be for MotoGP, and that's where Valentino Rossi won 3 rounds of his World Championship years, and now we're for World Superbikes and other motorsport events. So the curbing is all virtually flat, and the responsibility there lies with the driver to ensure that he doesn't abuse the track limit, and it will be notified, and you will get a penalty if you keep doing it.
One car still to set a flying lap. That's Klaus Bachler's Dynamic Porsche pit. He's just exited the pit and he's around the lap. But the person who's really flying it at the moment is Albert Costa. Didn't quite improve on that lap. That was his chance. He's down in 10th place in the top Lamborghini from Imperiale Racing. And now just taking a look out around the track. Instead of all the cars being in the pits bar 3, it's the other way around. All the cars on the track bar 3.
So Fred Vervisch is building up to going on to his first flying lap up this stint, and he's got just under 5 minutes, so he's got certainly 2 and a bit laps. So Vervisch knows if the track remains clear, there is a car further down the racetrack, but it's not likely to come into play. So on the brakes, down into turn 1 as we go back. There is the phalanx of cars that have all come out basically behind Vervisch. Hopefully he's not going to catch up to the tail of this car. These are coming down out of turn 10 all the way down through 11, 12, 13. Jim Pla in the 88 Mercedes, personal best sector 1, undone in terms of time in sector 2. So this is not a lap that's going to be of a significant challenge. So the 20 Jim Pla is currently only in 20th position. The 88 Mercedes, that is.
Well, they're pretty much back where they ended up qualifying yesterday after the wrong driver did the qualifying session and started at the back. But it was a great run up the order, got into the top 10 at the end. So a point, but they wanted and are good enough for far more than that.
Christian Engelhardt and one of the two dynamic motorsport Porsches, so they've not really been to the fore here this weekend, and it's hard to understand why. That we saw them show some form back at Zandvoort, but here in the heat, maybe it's just a function of the rear tyre degradation with the Porsche.
It could be. You get these anomalies, though, also. The car in 18th place, Ulysses de Pauw in the Ferrari, just set the purple first sector, his personal best in the second sector. He will go up the order, but down in 18th place for a crew that won the opening race, the opening round at Brands Hatch, not where they want to be, particularly for a team on home ground. A Ferrari in Italy should be higher up the grid, but certainly not for want of effort from Ulysses de Pauw. This lap is definitely going to propel him into the top 10. How high he can go remains to be seen. Just remember the order is Christopher Haase, Dries van Tor, Raffaele Marcello, Christopher Mies. They fill the front two rows at the moment.
So Ulysses de Pauw, will he go pole or will he not? Yes, he does. 1:31.590, 1/1000th of a second quicker than Christopher Haase. Well, we know it's competitive, but 1/1000th of a second between first and second is still provisional. Just under 3 minutes of this 20-minute qualifying session remaining. Christopher Haase looking to consolidate his current second place. Ulysses de Pauw has got that marginal advantage now. Dennis Marshall changing it by the second. By the second,
we've got the top 18 cars covered by 9/10 of a second, 19 cars by 9/10 of a, 20 cars by a second. It's stretching, the numbers are getting in and in, but thousandths of a second isn't good enough. Ulysses de Pauw, 0.113 of a second down on Dennis Marshall. That means Dries van Tor and Raffaele Marcello have been moved back to 4th and 5th on the grid. Dean McDonald suddenly goes to the front of the Pro-Am class in 7th place overall as Christopher Mies goes to the top. It's always an Audi at the top since that Ferrari had the interlude, but Dries van Tor pressing on.
Yeah, but he dropped that left rear off on the edge of the 14. That might have just lost him a 10th, maybe 1/1000th of a second.
And a new name at the top. Raffaele Marcello has got his Mercedes to the top by 0.095 of a second, 1/10 of a second. Dries van Tor topples him, even with including that little mistake. So, is that enough? We've got 1.5 minutes remaining on the clock, 1 minute 50 seconds. So Charles Weerts and his father Yves looking very nervous indeed. They didn't expect Marcello to be that quick, but covered by 0.126 of a second. This isn't over, John.
No, it's not. And you can see the tension in the pits, the WRT pits. They're all glued to the monitor, and literally over the last few minutes the time's dropping almost by the car coming out of turn 16 across the line. Nicolas Scholl currently in 22nd position, green for the Audi, but whether that's going to see any significant change from that 22nd current grid position, well, we'll know in a second or two.
We certainly will, and with other teams going ever faster at the top now, it's Raffaele Marcello still top, but we've got other people coming into the mix. A lot of teams running Audis, and the Audis are fantastic around here. Marcello improves in the first sector, loses out a little bit in the sector, but Dries van Tor gets purple in the middle sector. Oh, this is going to go down to the second.
Marcello slid the back of the Mercedes. Now he's got caught, and he's going to be penalised for that. He'll get another lap in, but whether he will have the opportunities now in that traffic, and that will take away any chance he had is currently provisional pole, but he would like to consolidate that. Christopher Haase is now up to second place.
But Dries van Tor is down to 6th, but he's fighting back, sweeping through turn 16. He too will have another lap to do, but this one will be surely enough to put him onto provisional pole with 29 seconds remaining. The time hits the board, he goes to top by 0.4 of a second. That is huge in this margin. That was an amazing lap.
And the first lap we've seen all weekend to break into the 90 seconds with a 1 minute 30.942, just under half a second quicker than Raffaele Marcello. So, I mean, how competitive is this grid? It's just literally 4, 3, 2, 1. Checkered flag is now out, but everybody...
Dennis Marshall, though, we're looking at him. He could spoil the party. Dries van Tor and Raffaele Marcello may not end up together on the front row because Marshall may be able to deprive... Oh, he's very, very wide at turn 15 into turn 16. He's down in 5th place for Tempto Racing. He could topple Marcello. Marcello had all that traffic, but Christopher Haase has now got a purple sector time. Marshall does not improve. Marcello, for now, John, still on the front row. That checkered flag as well, but some quick times coming in.
Christopher Haase, well, I mean, a good first sector, purple middle sector. So Christopher Haase hasn't said, well, my day's up. Currently on the second row of the grid, 4th position. Will he be on the front row of the grid? He will. He'll be alongside Dries van Thor, demoting Marcello down to the second row.
Yeah, Marcello actually was matched to the thousandths of a second by Marcello, and Christopher Mies comes through, so it's Audi. It's Dries van Thor, Christopher Haase, Christopher Mies, and Raffaele Marcello in his Mercedes down in 4th place. He almost hung on to that, but relief in the WRT garage. This is a track they love, but you have to be excellent. Look how close those times were.
5 Audis in the top 7. Fred Ravish has made a small improvement, cancelled out really by that middle sector. So can Fred Ravish, the car will start as it is presently on the 7th row of the grid, 14th position. He would like to get himself further up, get onto the 6th or the 5th row of the grid, but well, he goes onto the 6th row of the grid. A small improvement for Ravish, up to 12th overall.
Well, you have to say that was a supreme lap from Dries van Thor to work that. We had so many cars covered, top 20 covered by a second, and then he suddenly put in a lap 4 tenths faster than anybody else. And Christopher Haase closed within 2 tenths on his final lap, but some really tight tension out there. Raffaele Marcello, if Dennis Marshall had been thousandths of a second faster, it would have been top 4 all in Audis. But Marcello at least gets to start from the second row for his championship challenge.
Yes, and I mean, we saw yesterday that a very good qualifying indeed as we look down. Well, look, our top 15.
Well, the whole of that top screen, the top 15 covered by just over 9 tenths of a second, but Dries van Thor clear by 2 tenths of a second at the end. He picked his lap. He really had to work it. Christopher Haase was mighty all session for Treasure by Car Collection. Couldn't quite match him, and nor could Christopher Mies, another team WRT Audi. 4th place to the first non-Audi, and it's the championship challenger, Raffaele Marcello. And he took that just ahead of Dennis Marshall. Ulisses de Pauw, top runner in the Silver Cup class in 6th overall. Top Ferrari, which is good news for him. Matthias Drudi, 7th. Christian Engelhardt actually really finally getting that Porsche to move up to 8th place. Top Pro-Am runner Dean McDonald in 9th. Lucas Legere, new to the championship for 22 this weekend. The Santa Luc Audi in 10th overall. And eventually GSM Nova Marine. They've been struggling for setup all weekend. At the bottom of the table all over again. But Jim Plyer and Jules Gounon, it just didn't work for them today. Yes, they had a fast car and got put from the front end of the grid down to last position. Today, they're closer to last position than they would have fancied in 17th. So if they can fix it, they'll be going forward. But that is a bit of a concern, 1.1 seconds down. But really, hats off to Dries van Thor. The pressure was on yesterday, and his teammate Charles Weerts delivered pole position, the best place to start at Misano. And today, Dries van Thor really dug very deep indeed. And let's go down to the pit lane to hear from Dries' teammate, Charles Weerts. He took pole yesterday, but today his teammate, Dries, did a fantastic job. There with Gemma.
Charles, watching on there, that was a tough one to watch, but a fantastic result for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Dries was really, I think, aiming for that pole since he didn't have one this year yet. And yeah, with the cancellation of his lap just before, it was a bit stressful, but I never doubt of him. So yeah, amazing lap by him, and great effort by the team to give a great car. So no, I think I'm gonna congrats him, and yeah, it's a good start of a Sunday for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Charles always measured, but you could sense the tension in the pit lane there and in their garage particularly, because they really had to work for that. A lot of the other Audi teams, Treasure by Car Collection, John, have really stepped up the mark here at Misano this weekend. Yesterday, Lorenzo Patrese, yes, son of Riccardo, 16-year-old and last-minute replacement. Luca Giotto contracted COVID, so he stepped up. He qualified 4th, so clearly they've got a good setup on the number 11 and number 12 cars. Several cars in the order, though, will be going back 3 places on the grid. 111. McLaren, Norbert Siegler driving that, qualified 15th. That will go down to 18th place, and Chris Froggatt will go from 23rd down to last on the grid, because both those cars hit with a 3-place grid penalty for contact in yesterday evening's race. But Dries van Thor, Christopher Haase, Christopher Mies, a fabulous job for Audi, and Raffaele Marcello hanging on a circuit where the Mercedes isn't the sharpest of tools relative to how it has been at others.
It's strange how some racetracks suit a manufacturer more than the other manufacturers, and clearly here in Misano, this has got Audi written all over it like a piece of, I'm going to say Misano rock, but it's a strong 7-car Audi in the top 5 positions. Mercedes in 4th, and the sole Ferrari in 6th. And you just have to wonder, when the lights go out, what's going to happen, because Marcello is slightly boxed in. If he can make up one position, he'll be very fortunate. But Christopher Mies, Christopher Haase, will not be gentlemen and let them go through without some kind of fight.
Well, let's hear from the driver who did manage to eke that advantage. His name is Dries van Tor. He worked really, really hard and eventually came out on top by just under 0.2 of a second. He has been caught in the pit lane by Gemma.
Dries, you've got a reason to give us a big smile this morning.
Yeah, well, it's been a while since I've been on pole actually, especially in sprint, so I'm very happy with it. Yeah, again, looks like Misano is really our favorite track of the season, and yeah, I mean it's a good start of for the race for today, but yeah, there's still a 1 hour race coming up, so we still have to, you know, do the job, but it's a good start.
It was an impressive lap time that you put in there, 0.4 of a second ahead of the rest.
Yeah, I mean it was not easy to put the whole lap together. I was behind Rudy in my second set, and on my last lap he went a bit to the dirt, so I was like, oh, I'm done. Like I will not improve. But luckily the lap before was good enough. So yeah, very happy with it.
Well done, thank you.
Well done, Gemma. It's good to see a smile from Dries van Tor down there. And looking back at the highlights of qualifying, 20 minutes ahead of all these crews, and a lot of the ones wanted to get on track very early indeed. And the driver who was waiting to find the space on the track and get the tyres up to temperature was Raffaele Marcello. He knew it was going to be a tough fight in his Mercedes because there were ranks of Audis that just seemed so well suited to the track at Misano. And he wanted to see which of them was going to be taking possible tilt at pole. He knew Dries van Tor would be having a go, but others were certainly challenging as well. He knew there were ranks of them, and he had to do his best. And the times, Christopher Haase, always excellent. Christopher Mies, always excellent. Fred Vervies pushing on in the car. He shares with, of course, Valentino Rossi, but waiting to see what sort of times are going to be delivered by Dries van Tor. And you only have to wait. They will come. The Ferrari fleetingly went top. Ulysses de Pauw. But then Dries van Tor came good, put in a fantastic time, really pushing very hard indeed. Raffaele Marcello moved up to second place. But in the final few moments, two Audis got in front of him, and he ended up down in fourth. But it all belonged to Dries van Tor. There's the checkered flag, his first pole of the year.